Good evening, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining Rachel, Matty, and myself in our AMA today, which will focus on our proposal of a new tokenomics. You know that over the past few, I would say, months, the ALEX teams on the foundation side, which is Oscar, Mark, Hadan, Resh, as well as on the tech side, which is Rachel, Chang, together with Matty, have been working really, really hard on the new tokenomics. So before I think you all know Rachel, who is the co-founder of ALEX, and you know people here, Mark, Hadan, Resh, Oscar, Hero, Verna on the foundation side. And Matty obviously is a tokenomics expert in the Stacks ecosystem as well as a resident of the Stacks Foundation. So before I let Matty introduce himself, I would like to start saying thank you to you to coming here. I know the number one, the sentiment, global sentiment towards crypto is almost at all-time low right now. So really appreciate you being here. And number two, there's World Cup going on. So again, appreciate you being here. I just want to give a very brief background of why we are doing this. So as you know, our original tokenomics were written more than a year ago. At that time, it was, in crypto, a year is like a decade, just because the innovation is just so fast. At that time, Bitcoin was all-time high, and we had to fix our emission and to design to be very competitive with other DeFi protocols and attract liquidity providers. So that's the background. Now, current market is completely different. As you know, we all feel that crypto has been hit hard across the board, including DeFi. So I don't think this is unique to ALEX. I was, discussing with the team last Friday. We feel that we have been doing everything right. Whatever you write down things that you have to do right, we have been, clicking the box. And if you look at, all the price chart, and we usually don't talk about the price that much, but you should see the price charts have very similar dynamics. Even those who have been here for long, such as Uniswap, DYDX, etc. So here we are, together with the foundation, with the tech, with the Matty. We want to iterate and we want to improve, and we need to adapt together. So I remember in September and demo day last year, we haven't even started our testnet. Discord was 12 members. Twitter was 200 followers. And we, again, if you want to check, okay, which team have really delivered what they promised, and I hope you know that ALEX has done that, right? We have delivered everything we promised, and thanks to the dev team here led by Chang, we have an ideal launchpad, we have a DEX, AMN DEX, we have staking yield farming, borrowland with collateral rebalancing. By the way, 13 months later, the curve has adopted a very similar methodology to stabilize the stable coin. So we have delivered. I think we still remain the top project on Stacks in terms of activity, volume, TVL. But it is a crypto winter. There's just no doubt and no sugarcoating about that. So where we are right now is that we consider all what we have accomplished as ALEX 1.0 and the proof of concept what we want to achieve. So our roadmap, which if we have time, we'll discuss more in detail at the end of AMA. It will take us to our next phase, which is ALEX 2. What is ALEX 2? ALEX 2 is really about a few things. Number one, scalability, and number two is multi-chain. I would say these are the two keywords that we are currently working on. So now coming back to this new tokenomics, as I said, in the center stage today won't be me, it will be really Matty, and the whole ALEX team, foundation, as well as tech, have been working with Matty quite intensively over the past few months. And I must say, I have not met anybody so knowledgeable, thorough, but as well as discipline in the sense of focusing on protocols long-term well-being and token holders long-term well-being. As Matty, he is indeed an expert in this field, right? So everything that he has been pushing the team to design the new tokenomics is really about the long-term Pareto optimal between the protocols and the users. So I want to really give my utmost respect to Matty. And if you are currently building on Stacks or other chain, please, if you need a tokenomic expert, I cannot recommend more about Matty. So having said that, I think 5 proposals that we have covered in the Medium article in the new tokenomics is about number 1, how to utilize the protocol revenue, and number 2, adjusting the emission levels. 3 is about how do we use the token for discounted trading fee, and we want to simplify the ALEX staking, and then we also want to implement the escrowed emission, etc. So here are some statistics, but it's written in the Medium article. The vote will begin at the block height 85065 and will conclude at the block height 85870. Just like voting, you are part of ALEX. As we said in the very beginning, our heart is the right place. It's the process we need to optimize. How do we go from last year to the complete decentralization? So help us to decentralize, go to vote. Okay. So for the reference, we are currently around block height 85050. And so there's a lot of detail that I'm not going to cover, but I can do that at the end. I really want to go to Matty right now. So Matty, I think this is a good time that we begin our AMA by starting, you introduce yourself and give us a very top level summary where we were, what we need to improve, and what this new tokenomics include. So microphone to you, Matty.
Thank you, Chiente. Appreciate the introduction and those kind words. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I'll give a brief, just keep it brief, but do an introduction so that everyone's on the same page, and then obviously we're all here so that the community can ask questions. So briefly, just about myself first. I have a background in traditional finance and machine learning, hands-on development, as well as kind of project management. So I've been building and designing and optimizing economic systems, economic algorithms, models for over 10 years now, for some of the largest buy-side institutions on the planet, as well as working with projects on a smaller scale, working for VC-funded machine learning startups and crypto projects as well. I've been in crypto specifically since 2015. I was there through the ICO craze of 2017, and having that perspective of a strong, quantitative background, strong traditional finance background was very fortunate for me. In 2017, I was able to, avoid. I don't think I ever got scammed or rug pulled or anything like that in any projects. So it really drove home for me the point that Chiente touched on, which is this importance of long-term success. So I've been, whether it's the traditional finance markets where I've seen the mortgage crisis in 2008, or the 2017 ICO craze followed by the bear market. I've seen numerous cycles, and it's easy to design Ponzi-nomics, this pump and dump type of model that does well for one cycle and then dies. And that is not, hopefully, what anyone here in the ALEX community wants for ALEX. What we want is a long-term success. And so that's kind of what we're building for. That's a good introduction to just doing a summary of this proposal, which obviously is up for discussion, right? At the end of the day, the ALEX community voices and votes on what is implemented. So please don't take this as me saying this is what needs to be done or what you have to do. This is just me as a third party suggesting some proposals in collaboration with some community members and some ALEX team, as Chiente mentioned. So really, there's 5 distinct pieces to this proposal. Now, we can get into any single one of these 5 in great detail as we ask questions, but I'll just briefly do a summary, high-level summary of each of these. So the first one is making use of ALEX protocol revenues. As you might know, right, ALEX protocol makes revenues by capturing a fee from the AMM pools, right? So if I'm a liquidity provider, I provide liquidity, and if I'm a trader, I take liquidity, I place a trade in these pools, and I pay a fee to trade. And part of that fee is directed to liquidity providers, and part of that fee is directed to ALEX protocol's smart contract as a fee capture, as revenue capture. Currently, that revenue is not being used for anything, but the community can voice its opinion on how that revenue is used. And so I think that's a big piece of updating the ALEX tokenomics now that we have a year of hindsight, a year of actual realized performance, even though it is a bear market, right? Just setting up the right systems in place so that when the market conditions change, you're already on top of things is wise. And so there are a number of other protocols that we can learn from, right? Both in the Stacks ecosystem, but primarily outside the Stacks ecosystem that have established, best precedent for these types of things. And one example to draw from is the CRV token, right? Where the Curve protocol puts its revenues to use in the form of token distributions. Not saying that's the only thing that can be done, but that's one example of something that can be done. So that's piece number 1. The second piece is reducing the ALEX emissions and aligning them with the protocol growth rate. So specifically, this means cutting the emissions rate of ALEX to a fixed portion of ALEX distributed per unit of trading activity. So if you think about what is the driver of growth for ALEX, right? It's trading activity. It's activity in the AMM pools. And so while you could, in theory, just cut emissions and leave them arbitrary, leave them unrelated to AMM trading volume, right? Cutting is relative. Are emissions high or low? Those are all relative questions. Relative to what? Well, relative to the performance, the fundamentals of the protocol itself. And so this is the big piece, is not only reducing the rate of emissions, but almost more importantly, tying that rate of emissions systematically to the growth of the protocol so that you don't have, it's literally impossible for the emissions, to continue at the same rate if the protocol's growth slows down or temporarily hits a bear market like we're in now. So that is very healthy because you start to get this solid floor of fundamental performance, fundamental value, fundamental activity backing the token, that the ratio of token emissions to fundamental performance or fundamental activity stays constant. Whereas if you just cut emissions, that would not be the case. So that's piece number 2, cutting emissions, but just as importantly, tying emissions to organic growth of the protocol. The third is adding additional utility to the existing ALEX token. And so this is a concept, borrowing from many best practices. I think Binance probably is most famous for this model, where you can use their token, their BNB token in this case, to pay a discounted trading fee. So for example, on ALEX, traders currently pay 0.30%. 0.30% of what they trade is paid as fees. This proposal suggests that in exchange for paying a smaller fee than 0.30%, traders can pay their fee in portion of ALEX, and that ALEX is burned in the process. So this gives traders a way to pay discounted fees. It gives ALEX additional utility. It gives the ALEX token a source of burns, further reducing circulating supply. And it kind of aligns all these incentives by not removing trading activities for liquidity providers, right? Liquidity providers still earn a portion of fees, so not 100% is paid in ALEX token burns, but a portion is paid in ALEX token burns. So They make their fees. ALEX tokens get burned. They earn ALEX emissions, which are all else equal more valuable. Everybody wins. Fourth piece is simplifying staking. So right now, ALEX has the ALEX token and the AT form of the ALEX token, right? The AT ALEX token. You can stake discretely ALEX. So I could stake ALEX for 6 cycles, or you can continuously stake AT ALEX, right? I can stake ALEX as AT ALEX and it's staked forever. I can instantly unstake it or instantly stake it again. It's continuously compounding. This is a bit unnecessary, in my opinion, and also seems to be the general opinion from talking to the community at large. It seems wiser to move to an only continuous staking model. So, in other words, moving to where the only staking behavior is how AT-ALEX currently works. So all ALEX would work as if it were AT-ALEX. But then there's a critical point here. I don't want to confuse anyone. But if all ALEX tokens are essentially behaving like AT-ALEX, right? There's no reason to have a naming convention of 2 different tokens of ALEX and AT-ALEX. And so the simplification is suggesting to have all ALEX behave like AT-ALEX currently does, but just call it ALEX. Get rid of this name AT-ALEX, but it's only the name that's being gotten rid of. The functionality is being preserved. All ALEX will be continuously staked as AT-ALEX, but it's going to be called ALEX. It's just simplifying the staking. So that's the fourth piece. And then the last and final piece is this fifth piece, escrowing ALEX emissions. So this borrows a lot from other leading tokenomics protocols. It's inspired by GMX. If you want to check out their tokenomics after this call, that's probably wise to do if you have some questions about this. This is well established, has worked well for other protocols, so it's not something that's new or brand new or never tried before. It's not experimental, but in concept, basically all that's happening is ALEX rewards that are currently paid, right? ALEX rewards are paid to stakers and to liquidity providers. Those are emissions of ALEX, right? Currently, those ALEX emissions are completely liquid the moment you get them, right? As soon as someone gets ALEX, they can dump it on the market. And so what you get is basically long-term people who want to support ALEX, who are providing liquidity or staking ALEX and don't care about immediately selling it. Well, they would be holding the ALEX anyway. So they're not really getting a benefit, an immediate benefit from ALEX being liquid in emissions. However, mercenary capital, right? Capital that doesn't really care about ALEX or the protocol, isn't really here for the long run, isn't really here to align incentives with the community, but is just caring about maximizing their short-term profit. They do care about emissions being liquid because the second they earn emissions, they dump them. And so, again, what GMX has kind of done and what ALEX can do is emit ALEX emissions in the form of non-liquid escrowed tokens. So what is this concept of an escrowed token? Basically, an escrowed token, you might be familiar with this from Curve, for example, a vote escrowed Curve. Basically, an escrowed token merely means that it's not transferable. It's not tradable, it's not transferable, but it can be converted into a non-escrowed token, into just normal ALEX via a fixed process so that it can be traded. So basically, the idea is that emissions, instead of paying them as these liquid ALEX, you earn escrowed ALEX as emissions. So now there's no dumping on the market, right? You can stake them, you can earn rewards from them. If things like rewards are distributed to ALEX tokens, they would count for that, right? So they still give you the long-term incentives and the benefits of holding ALEX, but they avoid the benefit or the weakness, I should say, of incentivizing mercenary capital just dumping tokens. And so you get this escrowed ALEX, and you can convert it into ALEX by locking that up with staked ALEX over the course of a year. And that converts every day or every block really on a linear scale until it reaches 100% over the course of a year. So the primary benefit is that long-term people here for the ALEX ecosystem still get the same rewards, still get rewards that can be staked, that can earn additional rewards, etc. but it kind of eliminates the incentive by changing the risk reward profile. It eliminates the incentive for mercenary capital to just provide a bunch of capital, earn a bunch of rewards, and just immediately dump them, because they will be quote unquote stuck with this ALEX if they don't care about the long term future for ALEX. And so it really aligns the incentives of people who are going to be holding ALEX, staking ALEX, providing liquidity, using the platform, or be here for the right reasons. And that's piece number 5. And so that was all 5 pieces. I'll just go real briefly back through 5 of them to refresh everybody's memory. So the first is making use of ALEX protocol revenues. The second is reducing ALEX emissions rate and aligning those emissions with the protocol's growth rate. The third is adding additional utility to the ALEX token, so it can be burned to pay discounted trading fees. The fourth is simplifying staking, so there'll be only this continuous staking. It won't be, discrete staking or continuous or these cycles, just only continuous staking. And then the fifth is paying emissions in the form of escrowed ALEX emissions. So that's the summary. Happy to dive into questions, or Chiente, whatever is best to engage with the community.
Thank you, Matty, and everybody. Now you know why I'm so impressed about Matty. I think tokenomics. There's no textbook about tokenomics. This is something we are all fascinated about, and I explained to you why we are so fascinated about. But you find somebody in the ecosystem that can, number one, write down very clearly what the objective functions are about one particular tokenomics, and number two, lay out very clearly how you can optimize it. And I really don't see any second person in the stacks ecosystem or in other ecosystems, obviously, have this kind of capability like Matty. So Matty has summarized the 5 points. I just want to remind people, I then just wrote down saying that I should remind people that the first vote will only cover what has been changed with the longest time horizon to implement. Okay, Chang and Daphne are, and together with Rachel and Oscar, they are working very hard on the front end and back end of the voting. So 2 things are going to be voted in the first vote. One is moving from the fixed emission schedule to dynamic emission relative to the trading volume of the platform. So that's number 1 to be voted. And number 2 is manual ALEX staking and AT-ALEX staking will be replaced, as Matty said, by just ALEX and escrow ALEX continuous staking. So these 2 things will be voted. And remind everybody that in the Medium article is written, is laid out very clearly that the A power will be the only token needed for voting. So you don't need to go out to buy ALEX token, right? So you have A power. And when Rachel designed this A power, I was like, oh my goodness, it's for ideal. No, she told me that the A power is going to be very, very useful later for governance. And here we are. We're going to use A power for the token needed for voting to ensure that existing community members is the one, are the one who are fairly represented. So voting is done through, ballot.gg, so BALLOT.gg, with a link in our announcement, and currently is being posted to general. I think we posted on Twitter as well as on Discord. So for more detail on the voting procedure, we have also posted a link to the Medium article I mentioned a few times that Hadan and Mark have been working very hard on it. So please refer to your Medium article on the voting procedure implementation. Again, I know, sometimes we see you are complaining on Discord, on Twitter. We like you complain. I like to tell the team that, those unhappy customers usually are the customers that stay with you the longest. So do complain, but also do use your air power to go to vote, because you are the owner. You are the owner of ALEX. There's no CEO of ALEX protocol. It belongs to all of us. So you can shape the future of the ALEX token. So okay, so I know that Hadan and Mark, they kind kind of put a spreadsheet, put all the questions on the Discord channel about the new tokenomics. So Matty, how about that? I know you know the new tokenomics better than anybody else. How about I raise a question and you give us the answer? Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. So obviously the first question I think I should just answer myself. The first question is when will the vote be? So it will start at the block height of 85065 and it would end at the block height 85870. So it's approximately Monday, so today, till the next Monday, so approximately 1 week. So that's the first question. And then the second question, actually, I just answered it. What would be the exact questions for the vote? So again, go to the Medium article or go to the ballot.gg/alexlab.btc. There you can see the question. So number three, I think that's what Matty. This one, I think you will be the best person to answer because I know a lot of discussion between you, Rachel, and the team. So why we need to restructure ALEX Tokenomics?
Yeah, I guess that's always the key question. Why, right? I think a lot has changed in the past year in terms of the market, in terms of maturity, and for both better and worse, unfortunately. And there's also been developments and successful improvements and experiments elsewhere in the ecosystem in tokenomics. Munib talks a lot about how one of the theories is that Bitcoin will eventually take what's worked in other tokens, other ecosystems, and just build it on Bitcoin. I think the same principle, right, of just learning from other projects, learning from successes and failures of what not to do from other ecosystems is wise. And so in this last year since, ALEX has launched, there's been a lot of changes. There's been lessons that we can learn from other ecosystems, from other tokenomic structures, as well as just that it's rare that you get something 100% right the first time, right? And so there's nothing fundamentally wrong per se with Alex's tokenomics approach out of the gate, right? It's certainly not a Ponzi-nomic structure. It's not it's not an FTT or God forbid anything like that. But I think there's clear signs for improvement. Of anyone who's looked at the analysis, looked at the metrics, right? The price performance has been great, and while it's never a wise idea to optimize for price above anything else or forgetting everything else, it is wise to consider what will align the long-term incentives of the community with the protocol, especially given the market is gone and the fact that we might be in for a prolonged bear market. So I think some of these proposal metrics or proposal pieces, if you will, such as the alignment of emissions to growth of the protocol, such as the escrowing, such as adding additional utility to ALEX. These are all there to build on what's already there, right? Not replace it, not really say that we were wrong in the first place or ALEX did something bad in the first place, but merely to double down on the supporting the organic growth of the protocol, aligning the incentives of the community, and really making it learning from other projects and getting it strong so that we can not just survive this bear market, but thrive even in the bear market, but especially when things improve. So I hope that kind of answers it, but open to anybody else's questions on that piece. Yeah.
This is excellent. I always like to say, DeFi or tokenomics is something really, really new. Even if you go to, the deepest mind in academia, there are not that many research. There are not that many, resource being spent on thinking about what is the optimal tokenomics. So here we are. I think what we can do best is really, through, I like to say, disruptive iteration, right? You try and you do your best to learn from the ecosystem. Chang always tell me that, the technology part of crypto or let's say blockchain or crypto in general is commoditized, right? So you can learn a lot from other protocol and then just adapt to our situation. So I think that's the reason behind restructuring Alex, make things much more dynamic, much more long term, and much more to our long term objective is that our users are the owners of Alex protocol, and hence we need to share everything. So it's almost the opposite of the. Go ahead.
Oh no, finish your thought. Sorry.
Yeah. I say it's almost the opposite of Google or Amazon or Facebook, right? I always like to think about Google, Amazon is like a triangle, and then but the the decentralized finance or tokenomics is the opposite. You just can't wait from day one to go to decentralize it and share everything and be transparent as much as you can to your community and your users. Go ahead, Matty.
Yeah, so no, I think that's a great point, and I think you made a really good point that touched on, the software being kind of open source, right? Like in blockchain, in crypto, the product itself, the smart contracts, the software is open source. So where does the competitive advantage from? Where does the product itself come from? It comes from the community, which means that things like tokenomics playing a huge role in that are really important to get right, and not just get right for the short term, but get right for the long term, right? Or aligning that growth and that staying power that in other industries comes from suing people and proprietary data and proprietary technology, but in crypto it's less about that. It's more about aligning incentives. It's more about the community and network effects than proprietary software.
Yeah, I think that's what really excites us who come from TradFi, including you, Matty, and the Alex team, the majority marketing about this space is that is a completely new way of building a business, completely different way of almost like achieving what is a greater good compared with TradFi or traditional business. Okay, so the next question is from Diwa. Thank you very much. We have seen you very, very active in Alex community. So your question is that dynamic token release based on your usage sounds good as volume decreases, but as volume increases, they act as a pressure release, a vault to value accrue. Let's set a fixed or drastically lower release schedule and stick to that. It works for Bitcoin. The tension of rising value against a low emission and non-fixed, and thus through burning, reducing supply is value accretive. It's an excellent question because you think about both extreme scenario, right? Extreme bear and extreme bull market. So, Matty, do you have any insight on this particular question?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, if I were to boil it down to the essence of the question itself, it's basically asking, why don't we just cut emissions outright? Why do we cut emissions and tie it to protocol, trading activity? Because yes, it'll reduce emissions even further if trading activity goes down, but if trading activity goes up, then emissions would go up. And so, and doesn't that mean there's value or dilutes the value? So I think this is an important point, and let's look at both those scenarios, right? What if activity goes down, and what if activity goes up? Value and kind of emissions are all relative, right? So you could say just cut emissions to this, low, quote unquote, low fixed rate. That's what Bitcoin has. But ALEX emissions are already fixed, right? It's already fixed to some schedule. Low is relative to some benchmark, right? And so it's kind of meaningless to say, let's just cut the emissions rate, because if growth does slow down, then you're in the same exact situation you just started in, right? Oh, protocol emissions are too high again. Let's cut them again, right? So you end up with needing to make multiple cuts. You end up needing to do this thing manually. You end up like getting further and further away from what Bitcoin has of just set the emissions once and never touch it again. So I think, thinking about how value and how these things work, and how nature of quote unquote high or low emissions itself is relative, I wouldn't be as big a fan or suggest as strongly just arbitrarily cutting emissions in half and saying, that's it, we're done, for the reasons I mentioned. What if, though, the growth of the protocol, increases, the growth rate goes up, and therefore emissions, which are tied to the growth rate, increases? So let's talk about that, right? So the value, you don't necessarily want, number go up technology, so to speak, at the expense of everything else, right? Especially at the expense of high volatility and high unknowns in the system. Value being stable, value having some stability, value having some reliable floor depends on the protocol's emissions rate being dependent on, or tied to the growth of the protocol. So if the protocol grows faster than expected or the growth increases, yes, emissions go up, but they're still going up in line with that growth rate. And so you have the same reliable kind of fundamental floor of value backing the token. So at the worst case, you're not getting a lower floor, you're getting this stability. You're not getting really diluted, you're just not growing the price of the token, which is a bit arbitrary, right? So that's the first piece of this answer. The second piece is that there's nothing actually saying that the emissions rate stays at this fixed rate forever, right? The emissions rate, like Bitcoin, will decline and can and does decline over time, such that there's an actual total supply that is a one-day hit and there's actually no emissions at some point. So what does this mean? So this means that while we propose, it's proposed that one token is emitted per $1 trading activity today, in the future, even when there's more trading activity, the emissions rate can be lower so that, for example, there's only half a token emitted per dollar of trading activity. So in that example, even if trading activity has gone up double, right? Even if trading activity has doubled, the platform has increased 100%, the emissions would stay the same in this example because the rate of emissions per dollar activity is declining. And so I think that's the context I think is missing in this question, because they're worried about just won't emissions go up and up and up and up and up and up with growth of the protocol? And the answer is no, they won't. There's still a total supply. There's still declining emissions, all else equal over time or over growth of the protocol. And you have the benefit of this stable downside, this stable floor, this fundamentally supported dilution. So where it's actually not net dilutive. So those are the benefits, I think, of specifically tying it to the growth rate of the protocol rather than just arbitrarily saying, all right, let's cut emissions and be done with it. You might end up needing to do that again a month later or increase emissions 3 months later. It's not really actually the best approach, in my opinion.
Yes, this is excellent. I just came to my mind that we are lucky in the sense of a community that we can design the tokenomics, or let's say the monetary policy this way. Think about, if it were possible for one particular country that written down in its constitution that their central bank's inflation target has to be in line with the growth rate, right? And make those policymakers as well as the central bankers accountable for what they can print or reduce. It would be really close to what we are doing right here. All right. So the next, right? Yeah. But all right. So the next question, this is an excellent question from Kami. Thank you very much. Next question is from one of our almost OG member, Night Digital, who has been supporting Alex from day one. Thank you very much for this excellent question. And then Matty, you touched on this before, but I think here the question is that there's some confusion around escrow ALEX, the proposed new token escrow ALEX, and how the staking reward are calculated. So would you mind explaining a little bit more in detail about escrow ALEX and why this works?
Sure. So yeah, so I mean, I think if you're confused about this after this call, even you can read up about these topics elsewhere as well, right? Like these are not brand new concepts that have never been experimented with before. But essentially, escrowed tokens are just a form of illiquid locked token, and so the first thing to do is separate your mental model of the fact that staked and escrowed are the same thing. That's not necessarily the case, right? So in Curve's ecosystem, vote escrowed Curve is staked, and they kind of use the term escrowed for these staked tokens. So it can be a little bit confusing for people when first coming at it from that lens. However, in other ecosystems like GMX's, for example, staking and escrowing are separate concepts. And so that's the case here. Staking and escrowing are separate things where staking is going to be continuously compounding, right? So you can stake and unstake instantly whenever you want. So it doesn't really mean that stake tokens are like obligated to be locked up in this case, right? When staking means this, staking is just signaling that yes, I'm temporarily or I'm locking up these tokens, but I can unlock them whenever I want, and I'm earning staking rewards, etc. So staking is one concept. Escrow is a separate concept. And escrowing means your tokens are mandatorily locked up, right? They're paid in this escrowed form. You cannot immediately unescrow them. You have to go through a certain process to unescrow them. So in GMX's case, right, in ALEX's case here in this proposal, basically the way that unescrow process works, the conversion of escrowed to non-escrowed tokens works, is you host some escrowed tokens with some non-escrowed tokens, and those convert from the non-escrowed into additional, those convert from escrowed into additional non-escrowed over a year. So for example, let's just put some specific numbers to it so people can understand this better. Let's say I have 100 escrowed ALEX and I have 100 non-escrowed ALEX, just normal ALEX tokens. I could stake either of those tokens. I can stake my escrow tokens. I can stake my non-escrow tokens. They both earn staking rewards. I can do that all day long. But if I wanted to convert my if I wanted to convert my escrowed tokens, into non-escrowed tokens, I would need to lock up some escrowed tokens, 100 escrowed tokens with 100 non-escrowed tokens, which can be staked or not, earning staking rewards or not, and those convert over the course of a year into 200 in total non-escrowed tokens. So separate in your mind the concept of staking from escrowing. They don't need to be the same thing, although in some ecosystems they are used interchangeably. And then think about that staking, you have the choice about when and how much long you stake. You can stake and unstake immediately. Escrowing is more mandatory escrow lockup period that requires a process to convert out of. And again, the benefit of doing this, the benefit of having an escrowed token, is that emissions rewards can be paid in an escrowed form, which greatly changes the risk reward profile for mercenary capital, right? If they don't care about the long-term growth of the protocol, if they're not trying to support the protocol, all they're doing is trying to earn a quick buck and dump, then this changes their risk reward profile greatly. Whereas someone who's already there for the long term, who already believes in the long-term growth of the protocol, this doesn't change the risk reward profile of their rewards at all, because they're already going to be holding on to those. So that's the benefit, that's the reason why it's done, and hopefully that clears up a bit of the distinction between things like staking, things like escrow, and how to convert escrow tokens into non-escrow tokens.
This is great. Yeah, this was an excellent explanation. It's really staking and escrowing are two different things. So this also kind of tie into the next question, which is a little bit more specific about staking. This is from Titan's Energy. But I think you already answered that. But if you don't mind, Matty, just grab that part of your answer to this question. Is that if somebody that has staked for a year and wants to access the liquidity, do they need to still wait for a long time to access the liquidity? People that have shown their long-term mindset still need to move with shifting market conditions.
So it's a little bit of a I think it's a little bit of like a leading question because it's kind of saying like, well, if I've been staking my tokens for 2 years and then all of a sudden I decide I want to sell all my escrow tokens, can I do that immediately? The answer is no. But what the question is missing is that you had those 2 years, you have those 2 years to, you can be converting your escrow tokens into non-escrow tokens the entire time and still be earning staking rewards on your non-escrow tokens. So if I have 100 escrow tokens and 100 non-escrow tokens, right? And I've been staking my 100 non-escrow tokens for 2 years. Well, I could have been the whole time continue to stake those 100 non-escrow tokens and be converting my escrow tokens into more non-escrow tokens. So it doesn't necessarily, punish people who have been providing liquidity or staking ALEX. It just requires if anything else, a little bit of more, planning ahead for people. So you won't be able to just say, well, I've been staking for 2 years. Now I want to unescrow everything immediately and dump it all. That still won't be possible. But if you're in the ALEC community, if you're staking anyway, you're here, you'll be able to, unescrow your tokens over that time period. And so all else equal, someone who has 2 years of, staking loyalty has those 2 years to have converted a bunch more escrowed ALEX into non-escrowed ALEX to sell if they want, to transfer as they need, whatever the case may be. So I think the question is a little bit misleading in that it's missing out on that point, but technically speaking, there's no way to get around the unescrow process, which is intentional because otherwise, short-term mercenary capital and people like that could just get around that process and dump tokens, which would get us back to where we started.
Excellent. So I hope this answers your question, Energy. You can't have both. You have to choose. I feel like, in a very, politically non-correct way, escrow token is like, I'm married, whereas stake token is I'm dating right now. I have boyfriend, girlfriend. So, choose what you want. Choose your commitment, but you get both the staking reward.
It's a great example, and in this example, the basically the person is asking, well, if I want to can I get divorced immediately and date? Well, you can date while you're in the process of getting divorced, so you get a bit of the best of both worlds, but you still obviously have to choose one or the other at the end of the day. Yeah,
that's right. Okay, I think people in this AMA that might be the only thing they will remember after this AMA.
Yeah. Don't date while you're married. No.
Well, do whatever you like, but just make sure you want to have the long-term optimal. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So the next question is really tough. I think it requires. I think we should do an AMA for this one. So this comes from DY is really a good question. So it says, is there a concise and clear explanation somewhere of exactly what the market value of ALEX platform when fully operational will bring to the markets? Like what service will ALEX protocol provide to market participants? And I think this is, it's a tough question. Again, I suggest to have another AMA before year end to really lay out our roadmap, what we want to do, what we have done, what we want to roll out, and what we plan to roll out next year. But I would say the historically when we came to stacks, the reason why we were excited about stacks is its relationship to Bitcoin. Now a lot is going on within Stacks ecosystem. In particular, the non-custodial BTC will be the next innovation about Stacks. ALEX came to Stacks because we wanted to create financial instruments, Bitcoin yield, stacking yield, leverage stacking yield, etc. for Bitcoin holder. So a lot of those things that we have to work in accordance with the Stacks innovation, so we can't rush. But because we came very, very early on, there were nothing. Rachel like to say, when we came, there's nothing. We have to build everything, right? We had to build the ideal launchpad. We had to build the DEX. And obviously now the DEX become one of the biggest revenue generator of the protocol. We also realize there are lots of things that stacks need to improve. For example, the scalability solution. So Chang and the dev team have designed this beautiful order book. Is really for the scalability. And the next stage, ALEX 2, as I mentioned, is about two things. Right? One is a multi-chain. We are in the process of designing a multi-chain, but while we are designing the multi-chain, we have done the bridge, right, from Ethereum to ALEX, to Stacks and vice versa. That should be rolled out very soon. And the order book, the scalability, it should be also launched this year, if not early next year. Both are in testnet. So if you're not in testnet, your friend are not in testnet, please go to, try it out. And obviously, we always reward our testnet users. So it's just like an equity, right? A company. You ask what is the fair market price of the share of this particular company. It's really not like backward looking. It's both backward looking as well as forward looking. What has this team or this protocol achieved? What is the track record? What is the utility of this particular protocol in this particular chain, current L1 or L2 they are building on? And what is the roadmap? And how likely is this team going to, achieve what they have promised, right? So you want to discount the future cash flow back, right? DEX, order book for perpetual, for spot, is something that a lot of those volume is going to migrate from DeFi to DeFi. I think Rachel Chang in the next AMA, I would love them to come on stage to talk a bit more. They gave me a lot of really good statistics, right? These are really bread and butter type of business because this is a fee generating business, right? If we manage to move just 1% of the CFI's perpetual trading into DeFi, the pie is big enough. So that's really the future of ALEX. And then in addition to what we already have built on Stacks, which is offering Bitcoin yield to Bitcoin holders, now be another type of revenue generating business. But again, this is a great question, and we should have a separate AMA with that. Matty, having heard what I said, any feedback on this particular question?
No, I mean, I think it's obviously, it's a very open-ended question, so it's tough to answer. But I think, you definitely touched on, from my perspective, the big opportunities, right, of unlocking everything that has been built, but secured at the end of the day to native Bitcoin, unlocking Bitcoin capital as well. So it's hard to put an exact number on these sorts of things, but it's quite the big opportunity in my point of view, and quite the big value proposition. But I too would love to hear more from Alex's point of view about this specifically, and happy to help how I can.
Yeah, we should have AMA maybe in less than a month's time and grab Rachel and Chang on the stage as well. So it's 2 minutes to the hour. I think, Hadan, should we open for questions? I see there's one hand raised. Hadan, should I turn over to you? But before that, I want to give a big applause to Matty. And, Matty, you are a person that I respect so much. Not just in this ecosystem, also in the journey. Since day one, you were in ALEX Discord and give us really, really good questions and advices. So thank you so much again for helping us and also lead us in this tokenomics exercise.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Do you want to open for questions?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to bring Enigmania and give an invitation to speak. So let's see. Hi, Enigmania. Feel free to ask when you're able to.
Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yes,
How
I can hear you.
are you doing?
Okay, so I had a lot of jargons from the AMA, and I'm not a technical person. So, do you have a simplified version for what you've just stated before I get I must know what I'm voting for, and if I don't know, it's because of the technicalities of the terms. I wouldn't be able to really vote because I'll just be mimicking other people's votes. You get. So if I could get maybe a simplified place to read about this stuff, and then I can make votes and do other things on it. Thank you.
Sure. I think what we could do is when we tweet out this soundbite of particular Matty's presentation, we can write down the very top level version of this new tokenomics. Does that sound good?
Maybe simplified. I mean, so
Yes.
layman, like we that we know familiar with technical stuff.
Yes. I totally get what you are looking for. Yeah, we'll work on this today.
All right, thank you. A nice
Thank
one, nice
you.
AM. All
All right,
right,
Thank
thank you
you
very much.
so much. Thank you.
okay.
Any other questions I want to single out? I don't know if Rachel is still here. I know, Chan, you are suffering about the 2-0. Sorry about that. Is Rachel still here? No. Okay. Now, so let's conclude CMA. Thank you for being here. A shout out to, again, our community leader, Mike, Verna, Oscar, Mark, Hadan, and shout out to, our long-term community users, you here. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Matty. It was great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matty.